Today we are breaking down the OpenAI podcast, the first of its kind in that it's the first podcast that's centered around the OpenAI company that, is becoming more and more infused with everyday life in America and around the world, really. I mean, AI has been taking humanity by storm recently, just in the last couple of years, and OpenAI has been at the front of this. So there's no better time to dive into a podcast about OpenAI than today. And, this is the first episode, hosted by, I'm not sure, I didn't catch his name. He said that he's an employee at OpenAI. I trust that. And he's interviewing founder and CEO Sam Altman of OpenAI fame.
And Pete, I'm just going to jump in here. The title of this episode is Sam Altman on AGI, ChatGPT-5, and what's next on the OpenAI podcast episode 1. We do not, there's no with host blank and blank. There's no, he's kind of recusing himself there. He's putting Sam's name in the title. Now, we do know he's an employee at OpenAI.
Yeah.
Seems like someone wants a raise.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, someone's playing it smart, right?
I
don't
think...
want to say he jumped the shark. I want to say this is the Sam podcast. Hosts lead podcasts, but in this case, I really think Sam came on and he is a strong personality. Yeah. It's about him, and I think our host is maybe using this as a project, I think, for a nice little Christmas bonus.
Look, I mean, there may be a bit of ambition baked into his choice.
I got my tinfoil hat on, I don't know.
Look, I mean, he stayed a bit out of the limelight. Sure, this was supposedly, he was the questioner, the interrogator for much of this episode.
Yeah.
But I'm actually grappling with the idea that maybe he chose to remain inconspicuous as a symbolic gesture, that he is the vessel for the everyday person who is wondering and dying to know more about AI. And so he, kept his name out of the spotlight. So
the silent majority.
Yeah, so that we could relate better to him and feel like we were having, us, the audience, are having our questions about AI answered by none other than Sam Altman.
Now, what's the significance of this podcast, right? This is a pilot. So what are they bringing to the table here? What's the flavor? And this is an exciting podcast pilot season. We have a lot of new IPs getting delivered in the market. This, to me, is very tech heavy.
Yeah.
This is, a podcast for people really interested in AI, what's coming next. GPT-5, which, I don't want to give anyone any false hope. It's coming out, I think, this summer.
What is the time frame for GPT-5? When are we going to see this?
Probably sometime this summer.
Right.
I don't know exactly when.
They didn't get into that. So then the title right there, we're not going to know too much about GPT-5. I don't want anyone holding their breath.
I mean, yeah, Sam has been kicking the can down the road about the GPT nomenclature. I mean, going forward, he and the other man who's asking him the questions, they're grappling with the idea of what is GPT going to be named iteration after iteration, because there's like 04, there's like 03, there's 04 mini. There's just all this mumbo jumbo. And I think Sam is becoming a bit self-conscious about, this is getting out of hand, all these different names.
Because there's only so many numbers.
Yeah.
One thing that we go back and forth on is how much are we supposed to turn up the big number on new models versus what we did with GPT-4o, which is just better and better and better and better.
GPT-5 has to be coming soon. I mean, we can't keep adding on all these suffixes to 4 and 3 and whatever else.
So I want to say GPT-5 in the title is a bust. What else does this podcast promise? And to me, I'm sorry, under-deliver on AGI, Artificial General Intelligence.
Yeah.
We learned that through Wikipedia.
Yeah.
We had to look it up because Sam was asked point blank by, we're just going to call him host.
Yeah.
About what AGI is. And, he kind of gave a White House, he danced around, the old white Washington dance around the answer, right?
The old tap dance with the
He was
the
almost
cane.
like a politician. I was surprised. I almost wondered if he was stalling.
Yeah. I think he was maybe caught off guard by this specific question of how he would specifically define AGI.
I'd like to hear your definition of AGI.
In many senses, if you asked me or anybody else to propose a definition of AGI 5 years ago, based off the cognitive capabilities of software, I think the definition many people would have given then is now well surpassed. Maybe a better question is, what will it take for something I would call super intelligence.
You know, he got pretty loquacious with his answer, but it
He was
all
lucid as
amounted
hell.
to-
Lucid as hell.
It amounted to nothing. I mean, this was a really paltry answer.
He was lurid as hell, excuse me.
But I just do want to, say more up towards the front of this episode. I, found it a little disheartening that it seems to me like podcasting is kind of on the back burner for OpenAI. I mean,
Okay.
think about it. We're on Chat GPT 4.0 mini, whatever it is, iteration
Yeah.
it is. I mean, think about all the other iterations that have come since, and we didn't get a single podcast episode to, talk about the inner machinations at OpenAI any sooner than, we're supposedly on the cusp of GPT-5. So I want to pose the question to OpenAI why they haven't, thought of opening up the podcasting venture any time sooner to offer more transparency into their inner operations.
But we're getting that now. We're getting that now.
Yeah,
with...
but a day late and a dollar short. I mean, think about all the trails that have been blazed with
Look,
AI
they were
already.
they were waiting for funding. I think this podcast, I don't want, I already have my tinfoil hat on. Maybe they're getting some capital from, the Stargate Project.
We heard about Project Stargate, which has a very cool name, and it involves computers.
Right? That's $500 billion. I would think podcasting is going to be a massive chunk out of that, right?
I mean, Mr. Host did bring up the question of like, where is that money? Do you have it right now? And Sam's like, look, we don't have it in a bank account already. And the host goes, it's not in this room. I can tell you that much, right?
Do you have the money?
We don't literally have it sitting in a bank account today, but
Correct.
we are.
Is it in the room right now?
It's not in the room today.
So I don't
Yeah.
think the money has materialized yet. I think this is a very theoretical lump sum, and I don't know.
This is all it's promised, it's coming. We're working on, they're on another dimension of cash infusion. But look,
Well, if they have 500 billion, if they have a small chunk of that they want to throw our way, I mean, I wouldn't be shy about it. I'd happily accept that.
a sponsor?
Not a sponsorship, not per se, but if they want to, help other up and coming podcasts
Oh, a
grow and
podcasting
bolster,
endowment fund. I like the idea of that.
I think this could be a good offshoot of Stargate. Yeah.
Well, okay, so we're going to be getting into Stargate. We're going to be getting into, AI,
Yeah.
what it means for podcasting, what it means, I think, maybe for humanity. And we're going to be getting into, most importantly, their dynamic.
Yeah.
Because there's a watershed moment I'm very excited to talk about.
I can't wait for this.
I am so excited.
But
But
should we start with set design?
let's go into the technicals. Let's just get right in. I don't want to have an aneurysm here, so let me get it out of my system. The camera work was shoddy at times.
At times.
It was pretty solid. I honestly think that the cameras, they need to take a note out of Francis Ha, Greta Gerwig, when you put cameras. I mean, it's like, what do we see? And then flip the perspective, right?
Yeah.
Because it was too zoomed in on host, and it was a little wider on Sam, and then the wide shot was kind of funky.
Yeah.
There were so many times where the camera on Sam, it was gliding down at times.
Yeah.
Now, I will
distracting,
benefit
for
of the doubt, it glided down when Sam had a hilarious joke. We're going to be talking about that in the watershed
Yeah.
moment, so maybe he was just laughing really hard.
Yeah. I just do want to point out that
Mm-hmm.
on the host's angle, I appreciate the set design, but I think there was one object in particular, a knickknack
Mm-hmm.
on the shelf that really stood out and took up a lot of frame space.
Yeah.
And took some attention away from host as he was speaking, and I think this lent itself to his lack of memorability as a host.
Can you tell us what it is?
Yeah, it appeared to be a steampunk microscope
Yeah.
on the bookshelf behind him. I mean, this thing looked rustic as hell.
It
I
was
don't know-
very Bloodborne-esque.
Yeah.
Bloodborne times Isaac Newton, I
Yeah.
think I'd say.
Yeah, but it's standing there. It's bronzed, I believe, maybe
Mm-hmm.
copper. I don't know if that thing's gonna, turn green like the Statue of Liberty.
I mean,
in
I
the
don't
coming
have a
year.
handy periodic table to whip out and, just match that up. So we're just going
don't
to
know.
say it's somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah, but the oxidation period on this, I mean,
It's
I don't
not
know what
made
the
out of
half-life is.
plutonium. We don't know.
Yeah, but this is on the bookshelf, and with that are a number of books. There's a couple sections of books where they really represent the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. In that these books are stacked and arranged in pretty unique ways. I thought that was a nice touch by the set designers.
Now, there was soft focus, right? So it was really on the host. We couldn't see what the titles of the books were.
Yeah, which is a shame. I would have loved to see what's really guiding the principles of OpenAI. What kind of literature?
I don't think any of them were The Catcher in the Rye.
Really?
I know that book. I know what it looks like. These were thick, maybe history books.
You don't think Sam has And
collector's
he had
edition
nothing to
or
relate
something?
to about, the story of a child being abused or anything.
He might have had East of Eden.
Okay.
I haven't read it yet. I don't know if that's
I mean, we did
of
know
Mice and Men. I don't
we
know.
learned that Sam's upbringing, was fostered by Google. He loved to Google.
I was one of those kids that everyone was worried I was just going to Google everything when it came out.
It was a big thing for him as a child.
It was, but before we get into that,
Okay, technical time. Let me keep going.
I mean,
I won't stop you.
excuse me. This is really. We can move on after this, but the audio.
Okay.
Holy moly! Are you glad we didn't move on yet? Because
Yeah, I'd be remiss
You
to
wanted
glide
to
past
just
that.
run right over this.
Yeah.
Did it not sound bad to you?
No, it was horrendous.
Okay, why did you want to skip out on technical?
Because I got excited about, the content. I get, the
I
form.
know, you get
You're more of
excited
a
about
form guy.
content.
I'm more of a content guy, I think, when it comes to a lot of these podcasts.
Well, we need structure with podcasts, and one of the biggest parts for me, besides the strong visual, is the strong audio.
yeah.
Now, Sam, we're going to bring up a picture here. Look at that distance with the mic. Now,
Yeah.
in the industry, it's called the fist technique. You want a closed fist away from your mouth and the mic, right? So it looks like this.
Yeah. Like you could almost do a bird call directly into the microphone.
And yeah, that's right. And it was so far away
Yeah.
from Sam. I mean, the audio,
It's like he could yodel from that far back. I don't know what he was doing.
he could have gone full Yosemite Sam and we wouldn't have heard it.
Yeah.
And so the audio was sporadic.
Yeah.
There was lots of holes in the waveforms. And I think maybe a better use of AI and deep learning capabilities and, hyperscaling that technology could be restoring some of this audio quality on the podcast. But does AI not have that capability? Now I'm starting to doubt everything about OpenAI.
Well, I mean,
Or am I just a jackass maybe that thinks podcasts should be listenable and not blurry?
I mean, I don't know if we've reached the era of AAI, of like artificial audio intelligence. I don't know what the developments have been in terms of that.
But they couldn't even
field
chat
specific-
with, Chat GPT, talk to it and say, hey, we totally effed up the audio.
They bungled it, yeah.
We totally screwed it. How do we fix this? If we put the mic closer to the subject, obviously, yes. Would that work? Obviously, yes.
I mean, look, Sam teases.
Episode 2, we'll see.
We hope they'll have a fix, whether it's, in the studio or through the use of AI after the fact. But, Sam teases a lot of developments with GPT-5 and supposedly some hardware that he's working with Johnny Ive on that is a far time away. He says it takes a lot of practice to make perfect and a really good product.
You had the video with you and Johnny Ive talking about you guys been talking about and collaborating for a couple of years. I could ask you, is it on you right now?
No, it is not.
All right.
It's going to be a while. We're going to try to do something at like a crazy high level of quality. And that does not come fast.
But, we're putting the cart before the horse. I mean, what did you think of the narrow chairs? This is the other technical aspect that I did want to hone in on.
They were sitting in tiny chairs. Shout out Lena Dunham. To me, though, the set was, it looked like they were in a sauna or something. They kind of had this hickory paneling behind them.
I thought it was teak wood.
It could have been oak for all I know. I'm not really a woods, a crafting guy.
That's fair.
Could
have been balsa.
You should have seen my Minecraft houses. The kind of wood
Were they more stone?
I would mix and match.
Oh,
I made them out of diamond houses.
okay. Well, I mean, can we get back
You
to...
saw my chests. Plenty of diamond stacks, 64 at a time.
They were impressive, yeah. I mean, you took a lot of time to smelt those. But... Look, can we get back to, the cat I let out of the bag earlier?
Yes.
And that Sam really grew up doing a lot of Googling.
I was one of those kids that everyone was worried I was just going to Google everything when it came out.
Yes, he did. And so
He was probably in the top percentile.
I mean, I love Google search.
he was in the top 1%, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There's, pockets of this that felt to me like the diamond in the rough as far as, we have a lot of amazing information about AI, but to someone with maybe untrained ears, they maybe don't know what everything is. They don't have an OpenAI product transcribing it in real time.
Yeah.
They're going to be looking for these gems of personality. What's bringing me to this? What's going to bring me back to the podcast? Not the narrative. Guys, it's always the characters. It's the people.
Yeah.
It's the hosts,
the
right?
big personalities.
And so Sam, we learned that he did a lot of Googling with his homework. And, the host posed the question, what would have turned out if you didn't do so much Googling?
Yeah, where would we be now as a society if Sam laid off the Googling and maybe gave his homework to his dog every once in a while? What would have happened? How would Sam's educational track have been? Would it have totally veered off? Would he have become a burnout? Would he be doing dope under a bridge or something?
I don't think so, because Sam is a born and bred autodidact.
He's certainly speaking with a couple of them. I mean, he said that he recently met a crazy autodidact.
I met this guy recently. He's like one of these like crazy autodidacts, just obsessed with learning and knows about everything.
Which, that's awesome to hear that two autodidacts were, communicating in concert with one another. I believe, I imagine this is in the Bay Area. I mean, that's got to be something to witness. That's like a Nat Geo phenomenon.
Wish I could have been there. But just going back to Google for a second, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Sam kind of saw the value of, you're telling me I got to study Spanish for an hour. I'm going to Google that, and it's going to be easy, and then I can smoke pot and, go read comic books.
And have your completely butchered Google Translate version of Spanish? I mean, that's child's
play. I'm just saying he saw the power of a product, software product that can make homework exponentially easier. And he said, I'm going to grow up to make this look like a bitch. Pardon my French.
Okay.
Because
Spanish.
ChatGPT, I was getting my lifeguarding certificate last weekend. It was all high schoolers.
Yeah.
And I was talking to them, and I was asking them, do you guys use ChatGPT?
Yeah.
And they said, I don't know anyone that doesn't.
Wow.
The teachers use it. And they said,
whoa.
You can tell, the homework assignments are written by ChatGPT and answered by ChatGPT.
No way.
So Sam kind of pioneered the idea of homework is for losers.
Interesting.
That's right.
He pioneered the idea that you can end up at the taqueria and ordering, perfectly acceptable Google translated English to Spanish, and it'll work out fine.
You can do it. Tilt your hat down. You're wearing sunglasses. Just put your phone up and let that thing rip. And that could say, Quiero comer un taco, por favor. Now, somebody did their homework in AP Spanish, so...
Usually you order with quisiera, but okay.
I know my way around the Spanish language a little bit.
Okay.
Por favor is what I'd add, potentially.
Well, yeah, if you're polite, of course.
But if we're moving fast, we don't have time for all the formalities, right? So just like, here's the cat. It's an interaction.
Okay.
I'm a consumer.
And Sam has mastered this. Or he's put forward a viable solution to help everyone master these kinds of transactions and conversational, tools. Wow, that's fascinating. I mean, he takes clearly a lot of pride in AI and the development of technology. I mean, his favorite video he recalls, this is a fun anecdote, is that he saw, a kid who supposedly is, potty trained with an iPad, real iPad kid, who was like tapping on a magazine. And Sam knew this was a glossy magazine, but the kid was just trying to play
Flappy Bird.
Yeah.
Tiny Tower.
Monster Dash on this thing, and just was like, he couldn't understand why this thing wasn't moving.
There's this video that always has stuck with me of a baby or like a little toddler with one of those old glossy magazines going like this on the screen.
Because it thinks it's an iPad.
I thought it was a broken iPad.
Tapping on a magazine barcode, that ain't gravity, guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, the technology is expanding so rapidly that the tools of yonder have, really, they're fading faster and faster into obscurity. I mean, yesteryear is further and further away. But, Sam is extremely kid-pilled.
By the way, extremely kid-pilled. I think everybody should have a lot of kids.
He came out loud and proud about that.
Glad he defined it.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
He thinks it's a great boon to the earth.
And a host here talks about AI being an amazing tool for parents.
Yeah.
Right?
This was touching.
Because, when you get tired of explaining to your child what Thomas the Tank Engine is, you could let AI do it for you. You leave the room, and now you can go smoke pot and drink soda pop.
I saw something on social media where a guy talked about he got tired of talking to his kid about Thomas the Tank Engine. So he put it into ChatGPT into voice mode.
Kids love voice mode on ChatGPT.
And he was like an hour later, the kid's still talking about Thomas.
Yeah. But isn't that so nice that a parent could think of using this tool in that kind of way? Like, that's a new horizon, a new frontier for parenting, is being able to think up, oh, what if I just have OpenAI or ChatGPT communicate with my kid about
What
his
if I have
his or her interests?
Well, I think we're getting the through line here. What if ChatGPT does my homework for me? Because homework is for losers. And Sam kind of came full circle at the end of the episode, just jumping around here a little bit.
Yeah,
We're going to come back.
Yeah.
What if ChatGPT could do a meeting for me?
Yeah.
And I trusted it to know what information to tell to who.
Yeah.
I could record that. And guess what? I don't have to be in the meeting anymore, and I can leave the room and do what? What do you think?
I mean, that's a compelling idea. I hate meetings.
Smoke pot, drink soda pop.
Do dope under the bridge when you get to that point.
But,
I mean, maybe that's not for everyone. The dope might maybe stick to weed.
But, we learned a lot about Sam. We learned that he loves Instagram ads.
I think ads on Instagram, kind of cool. I bought a bunch of stuff from them.
And those are his favorite kind of ads. And we don't know what he's buying on there.
I mean, he lauds phones as a fantastic technological advancement. And it's compelling to think that he's using a lot of his time on his phone looking at Instagram ads and being inspired by these and going on to purchase products. I mean, I don't know if he's... I mean, what products have you been seeing recently?
What are those little things, Labubu's?
Labubu's. Is that an Instagram ad? Have you been seeing those on ads? They're hard to get.
They are hard to get. But maybe he, is getting the right ads served to him on his feed. Even though he said the biggest mistake from social media has been feeds.
One of the big mistakes of the social media era was the feed algorithms.
Yeah.
Feeds get people to stay on that product for a long amount of time.
And they know how to make people upset so that they stay on longer and spend more time.
That they don't reward content that inspires hope and contentment. They actually reward rage baiting. But Sam is saying, look, ChatGPT, we're going another direction.
Yeah.
We're looking towards the horizon on a more positive note, and we actually value people's privacy. This is what Sam's saying, that, he's really kind of pissed off. You could see he's pretty livid with the New York Times ongoing lawsuit with ChatGPT.
They were trying to access the last 30 days of someone's, ChatGPT history, or they think that should be accessible in some capacity. And Sam is saying, no, I'm not letting you crack.
You could tell that maybe Sam is quiet at parts in this interview. Now I'm realizing because he has this massive weight on his shoulders with the New York Times.
Yeah.
And they don't, New York Times, they're not thinking about this. They just put out their list of 100 best movies.
Yeah.
Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? That's on there.
Yeah. Finding Nemo, I think, made it. Ratatouille also made it.
Ratatouille on there. It's got to be, right?
Yeah. But, Sam's got the gray lady, whispering in his ear, biting his neck, nibbling his ear, and... he's not letting her crack. I mean, he's standing tall and denying any kind of privacy breaches. He's really holding firm, apparently. And, it's been weighing heavily on him. Now, what did you make of him saying that he would read more deep research if he had any more free time at all? That if he had, any time for hobbies or anything else, what have you, he would be doing more research.
Well, I think it's a testament to how important and how much it means to him, this podcast.
How so?
He could have spent the last 40 minutes, in an Eames chair, feet up, reading the latest report on compute.
Yeah.
But he chose to come on this podcast.
That's an interesting point.
I think he wants to spend more time with his employee.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not getting enough time together at work, so... maybe the host here is thinking this could be a bonus. Maybe Sam's thinking, I need to connect with my employees a little bit better. Why don't they all just get podcasts? I'll jump in on them.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of, what's your favorite color? Who are you? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm paying you after all, right?
Yeah. I mean, if Sam has any more time that opens up in his calendar, I mean, he should take some time to learn how to talk closer to a microphone. That's my one tip.
I'm going to put this on the audio technician. They should have done the closed fist technique.
Yeah,
and they
but
failed.
Sam could also do that.
I know, but the audio technician doesn't have a New York Times lawsuit on their head. Sam does.
Okay.
So come on. Before we get into the big watershed moment here,
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking we just go over, Project Stargate.
Okay, yes,
It's
this is a big thing.
$500 billion, right? And let's sum it up. Taxpayer money goes into building massive GPU centers
Yeah.
all over the U.S.
Yeah. This is
And the amount of energy these things are going to store, because it's very hard to move energy around the world, but what if you suck up all that energy to make insane knowledge? Now that knowledge can be spread all around the world. Now we're getting somewhere.
Traditionally, it's very hard to move energy around the world. But if you exchange energy for intelligence and then move the intelligence around the world, it's much easier.
yeah. I mean, these things will be guzzling what have you, gas, nuclear, solar, any kind of energy, just to be able to expand the breadth of intelligence around the world.
They're gonna make Hummers look like crap, but all this energy means a lot of high schoolers are gonna have some more free time not doing their homework.
Yeah, they're gonna have more time for lifeguarding classes and certifications, which is exciting.
Well, and it's only gonna get better and better because this is all about compute.
The big problem everybody's facing, which is compute.
Well, it's an effort to finance and build an unprecedented amount of compute.
Let's make compute as cheap and effective as possible. It's going to be 10 to 100 times more effective. And when you have compute that powerful, who knows what can happen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I appreciated how the host brought us into the Stargate segment where he was, asking Sam, like, how would I explain Stargate to my mom?
What is the simple description I give to my mom about Stargate?
Really bringing it into, the family life, into the home and making it accessible for the audience to be like, yeah, how would I communicate to my loved ones about Stargate?
Now, a totally different answer than how would I explain it to my pop?
Yes.
This is how I'd explain it to my pop. Dad, go long, catch this big skin. Imagine if we were playing football and right next to us was so much compute, you couldn't even believe it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Probably something like that.
Do you know how you'd explain to your mom after Sam's tutorial and, information sharing?
I would explain it just the way they explained it.
Okay.
I thought it was perfect. I thought it was concise.
Could have put a bow on it. I mean, I also liked in this segment how Sam took the time to explain what a pencil is.
There's a great quote about a pencil, just like a standard, wood and graphite pencil.
And how, what
Yes.
a technological advancement that alone was, that it's wood and graphite together. I mean, a typical salesman, a marketing man might, try to sell you a pencil.
Are we forgetting something?
What's that?
Is the eraser made of graphite or wood? No.
Yeah, I don't know. Is
What
that
about-
rubber?
What about the metal conductor that attaches the eraser to the wood?
The transistor.
Sam, we're forgetting something. Someone doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
Someone uses a pencil without an eraser. That's one hell of, characterization on a podcast.
Yeah.
That wasn't a mistake.
Yeah.
He doesn't use pencils with erasers.
Yeah.
And also, can I speculate? He might have been in a pissy mood because he was a little upset at Elon for abusing government power. He didn't think it was possible that Elon would do that kind of thing.
I didn't think Elon was going to abuse his power in the government to unfairly compete. I regret to say I was wrong about that. I mean, I don't like being wrong in general, but mostly
Right.
I just think it's really unfortunate for the country that he would do these things. And I genuinely didn't think he was going to.
Yeah, he was a bit disappointed. It seemed that, Elon would attempt to, get cozy with the Trump administration and then, use that leverage to, shut out some of his business competitors like OpenAI. Sam was really taken aback by that happening. He just he thought he knew Elon better, which it's disheartening to hear. Elon's been on a number of podcasts. He's a pretty well established
Seasoned
podcaster.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see a budding podcaster with a beef of like a more established face in the game.
Right.
It's troubling. But I think this all brings us to the watershed moment. Should we get to it?
Well, my preamble, just really brief.
Okay.
Because this is all about humor. It's about jokes, storytelling with comedy. The host tried his best at some jokes with Sam. And we kind of see Sam's humor through these jokes, how they land, how he reacts. Around 17 minutes in, Sam was talking about, people hallucinating with AI and such.
Yeah.
And the host said, well, my friends hallucinate too.
People have a very high degree of trust in ChatGPT, which is interesting because like AI hallucinates. It should be the tech that you don't trust that much.
My friends hallucinate too, so I trust them.
People really do.
Sam almost broke there.
Yeah.
It was witty. It was not a belly laugh.
I mean,
joke.
he remained rather stoic.
I have to wonder if host was looking for a different delivery.
Yeah.
Was he really going for that kind of witty, snap, crack, get you right there?
It landed with, a dull thud. But we also should keep in mind that he is a subordinate of Sam's, and, that dynamic can get rather hairy.
But you know what didn't land with a dull thud?
Yeah.
What landed with a sizable impact of hilariousness?
Yeah.
Sam's zinger, around 31 minutes and 52 seconds. This is our watershed moment. This is, I think, the absolute diamond in the rough. This is
the pinnacle of the episode.
It really was, because so much of the episode was very dry, very tech heavy, and then he just punches you in the face with a joke you never saw coming.
I've always joked that one thing we should do when we have enough money, when OpenAI has enough money, is just build a gigantic particle accelerator and solve high energy physics once and for all.
I mean, that was a splash, and we were in the splash zone.
It reminded me of that quote that Steve Martin said, where he's like, when I'm doing stand-up, my brain is in the future thinking about the thing, my mouth is in the present, and my body's something's in the past
or something.
Yeah, I'm scanning around.
It honestly felt Carlin-esque to me. I mean, Sam is forecasting the future and bringing it into the present with, a really humorous vision.
But this isn't cynical, so I don't think it'd be quite Carlin-esque. I mean,
it still made the writers of The Big Bang Theory look like a bitch.
Whoa, no one at Caltech is going to be able to pull this out of their pocket.
I guess
I
not.
always joke that one thing we should do when we have enough money is build a giant particle accelerator.
Yeah.
Now, here's where it gets a little messy. So, boom, punchline, perfect setup.
Immediately hits host.
But the setup is incredible. That I always joke.
Yeah.
So now we know that a joke is coming. So it's not going to come totally out of the blue. It's like we're at power slap. I know it's going to come, and I'm just gearing up, clenching my teeth.
Yeah, it's a little bit of foreplay.
And then we get the joke, but then Sam goes in to explain it, and he says, and solve high energy physics once and for all. For me, that was a little disappointing that he would go and explain the joke as if we didn't know what he meant by saying build a giant particle accelerator. It would be obviously to solve high energy physics. Trust your audience, Sam. Know that your audience is sophisticated enough. If you're getting a laugh, it means we know what you're talking about.
Exactly. The joke stands on its own, and I think, Sam, he can tool around with ChatGPT a bit more to really hone in on this joke, maybe have it tell it the way Jerry Seinfeld would.
Sure.
And, cut off the explanation, because it's just not necessary. It really bogs down the humor of the moment.
It does. But I think,
again, still watershed.
But I think this is, and this is so obviously what's incredible with comedy as a product, much like software and ChatGPT, is when you're doing stand-up, you get that immediate feedback, right? It's like, what works, you can tinker with it, but Sam is getting that instant learning feedback. It's the same way you're talking to AI. It says something, whatever, it can gauge that response because it's a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
There's a sender, there's a receiver.
There's sensing and there's feeling.
That's right. So overall, I think it was a really incredible episode going up to that point. I really like that Sam let his guard down and wasn't afraid to kind of make that joke, knowing it could fall flat.
He let his freak flag fly.
And I mean, the host's joke really didn't do any damage. So we know that it is possible to have a joke go and not land, and we know that it sucks.
Yeah. But it's always a binary, and it's nice to see the other side where, Sam really got a strong laugh out of his audience.
So what are we looking for next time? I think if Sam could come in with a definition of AGI.
Yeah, if he could come in with like a definitive update on GPT-5, when that might actually be rolling out, that would be awesome.
It's going to be interesting to see if any other OpenAI employees get interviewed.
Yeah.
If this is just going to be an exclusive club of podcasts, or if he's going to have other, founder-led, tech company pioneers come on, right?
That would be sick. I mean, we get great minds from Microsoft, Apple, Fubo.
Scale AI. You never know what's in store for this podcast.
Yeah. And so this was a strong baseline, and I'm excited to see if Sam comes back, if host is switched out with another OpenAI employee as well. But
ultimately, the sound technician, they know what they have to do. I want to see that improvement. I'd like to see the camera work. Not going to go too hard on you. You really, you're lucky that the sound guy messed up this badly, because otherwise I'd be taking a bite out of your ass. I get very upset with the camera work.
Yeah, we didn't even zero in on an autofocus moment, but we'll leave that. You'll discover that on your own when you watch the episode.
Sleeping dogs lie, and guess what? That lives forever. So act in haste, regret at leisure. I mean, this is going to live forever. And when you hire someone whose skills are that shoddy, it's going to have consequences. Yeah. Unfortunately. Well, don't end on a negative note. This was a great.
It was.
It really was a fantastic
Makes me feel excited.
Podcast.
I mean, Stargate is just the beginning. I mean, $500 billion to build greatness and consume energy.
That's where our taxpayer money's going, to play pigskin with Dad right next to that thing, right?
Yeah.
And mom's gonna be there too.
Yeah,
the whole family,
and she's gonna perfectly understand Stargate thanks to this episode. So,
all right, guys,
thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We'll catch you next week, and take care until then.
Bye, guys.
Bye.